drive down costs and even potentially other aspects of the mission capability, as well as when it comes to. So I am thrilled to have two or more competitors typically, and this is something that we believe in strongly in this country, and in areas where you see monopoly providers, you don't get really the natural incentives that you have with competition. So it's a combination for us of, I think, assured access as well as that American spirit to drive down the price and increase the capability, safety, efficiency of the system.
Sort of build off of those two questions, so far NASA sort of drawn a line between using commercial services for orbit activities and relying on more traditional contracts for moving outwards for exploration. With the success of SpaceX and with orbital now coming online, is NASA going to look towards maybe looking at the advantages of commercial spacecraft to augment or be a part of your exploration efforts?
Absolutely. This philosophy works beyond North orbit. What is really required is for there to be additional markets and those driving forces where the private sector wants to do some investing on their own. And I would argue we're doing that beyond North orbit already with Google Lunar X Prize, for instance. Data buys, being able to, without developing the spacecraft ourselves, say, hey, if you get there, we pay for that data, we need it. We would have paid hundreds of millions for it, and for pennies on the dollar, you get that kind of data where the private sector is willing to invest. The military has been doing this in the sense that they buy 70% of their communications from commercial satellite companies. We at NASA just announced, of course, the Bigelow agreement where they invested nearly $100 million. We poured $18 million to be able to get that technology with their investment. So we see this as being important well beyond just transportation to LEO. I would say it's even something NASA has been a path we've been on. We have an agreement with Sabatier, how we get our water on the space station, that the Human Spaceflight Office negotiated years ago, that we buy by the drink. You know, when it works and we're getting our water through the system, that's how the agreement goes. So cooperative agreement notices, CRADAs, Space Act agreements, data buys, these are ways that we partner with the open industry to get immense value from the tax dollars. So we, NASA, can invest our dollar in doing a hard thing that no one else has done before, and that often there aren't immediate other markets for. And as we drive down those costs, we drive down those technical risks, the private sector can come in and offer it of greater value to others, and that helps them become more competitive and helps our economy, which is one of the very best benefits of it. Yes.
Okay, speaking of benefits and value, given the NASA budget being as small as it is, and it's been shrinking for this last decade, quite small in fact. Looking at the proportion of budget that NASA wallets receives, do you foresee with this Antares buildup and with the Mars pad that they'll actually be able to receive a little bit higher ratio in the budget for the next decade or so?
So it's all related. NASA right now, this year, with sequester, is at about $16.7 billion, and that is less than a half a cent of the tax dollar. I will also argue that we are the greatest space agency on the planet. We total every other space agency on the planet, including China, Russia, all of Europe, Canada, Japan, less than NASA, less than all total. So on human spaceflight in particular, it's like we're 10 times the amount of everyone else. So we are in the lead. Our plan is leading the world, and we believe that Wallops is a key part of that. Wallops has been a key part of that for our entire history. But now, as we look to investing in these private sector programs, and it won't have to come at the expense of a taxpayer. It can be industry coming here to do real business that returns, again, to the broader economic sector. And in the case of NASA, my belief is, as we prove that we are that economic multiplier, someone might have to spend a little more than half the time of their tax dollars. So I think it is all related. Wallops is a key part of that, and we really believe that today's launch is going to help us advance that objective.
Wonderful, thank you.
Sure, yeah.
I think we go back to your agreement with Bigelow. Could you talk a little bit about what the benefits that you're getting from your partnership with them? The way that I understood it was that they were leasing the technology from you that was already developed by ILC Dover, that's currently sitting at Langley, and then you just bought it back from them.
Okay, so that's a great question. NASA invested in this technology in the 90s. We did not get the technology to the TRL level where we were comfortable flying it in space. So we licensed it to Bigelow. Bigelow invested $200 million of their own money to get that TRL level up to where we are now comfortable flying in space. So they spent $200 million, we spent $18 million. They had, so that now we can utilize it, and we could have never developed that with our own money. Now we have this capability to be demonstrated that is an expandable type of a spacecraft that could be utilized for other orbit missions, for deep space missions, for lunar missions, that, let's face it, when it's expandable, you have to spend less and launch costs are driving a lot of these expensive missions. So it's a really great technology that we were able to get for a taxpayer investment of pennies on the dollar. Okay, yes?
With news in recent months about certain hacking groups interested in hacking the Mars rover, could you speak about the importance of cybersecurity with NASA, especially with remote control of satellites and other vehicles?
This is 2013, and the world we live on, cybersecurity is absolutely critical to everything we do. We know this. It is the battle space of the future, and NASA has a unique, I think, ability to attract people who might find it interesting to be looking at our system. So we take this very seriously. The entire government takes it very seriously, as does the private sector. All of us are very aware, and we are now even stepping up our capability further of the threats of cybersecurity, and something that is with us. And as we all live every day, we have to take personal responsibility. We ask every one of our NASA employees and contractors to take personal responsibility, and overall have, we believe, a system that has been incredibly robust. But this is not an area we have really rest, because it changes every day, and our folks are thinking at it every single day.
Thank you.
Yes.
There have been hints that NASA may be doing more with Bigelow Aerospace. Are you in discussions with them to do more, particularly in the range of the moon? Can you comment on that at this point?
Bigelow Aerospace is interested as a private sector company in doing a lot of things, and NASA, as we've been talking about, partner with the private sector who's interested in investing their own funds. So of course, I'm sure there are discussions with them and many other companies about things that they want to do where NASA could offer some value. We look at Inspiration Mars. We have a space act agreement with them. These are non-exchange-bound space act agreements. One of the values of NASA, and since 1958, this has been one of these great values, is the fact that we, because we're funded by the public, can invest in these technologies which then are useful to others, and we can also be market. So absolutely, we are very excited that there is a private sector venture resources, deep space industries, many, resource cloud companies, entities that want to partner with us for our expertise, and we really feel that is a way to leverage the tax investment in NASA. So absolutely. Yes.
You mentioned that there is unlikely to be another COTS type of program. I'm curious, when the current contracts run out and say the space station is passed, will NASA treat Orbital and SpaceX as kind of, FedEx and UPS on the Rolodex to call on for future cargo things should they arise? Or how do you see, if there's a future unforeseen right now cargo need, how are those companies going to be used?
Keep in mind, COTS uniquely was the development funds. I see something like CRS certainly following on. I think Dan's question was more about, are we going to invest in others to develop this capability? And if you have two successful programs, and this would be similar with Crew, it wouldn't be up to us to invest. But as markets grow, you can definitely imagine other people wanting to get in this game. And as they do, us being more than willing to on-ramp them through the capability that we have have using, the launch service providers. LSP is how we do this. We intend to do it using these qualified providers for cargo. We hope if the station can go beyond 2020, which we would love to see, that we will have these providers, and we would look for others. COS was just that development money. We, of course, would be continuing to pay for services and be able to
Right.
honor it.
But I guess I'm wondering, is there going to be a difference between, for instance, your favorite cargo suppliers right now in SpaceX and Orbital versus some of these people who might come on with these, or is it just going to be an open slate
No,
every time?
I would not say there would be, and similar to how we launch our science payloads, right? We've had people being able to launch on Atlas and Deltas for a long time, but now we're on-ramping both Falcon 9 and Antares, and as they get to those level of capability where they have proven track record, we can put the different classes of payloads on those launch vehicles. Space station, some of this cargo is a class of vehicle that we could conceivably have new capabilities launched, and we would look to doing that, and I could see folks investing in developing that. I think there's a couple of companies that said they might develop capability on their own and then be there where we could buy service.
Lori, speaking of your future commercial services providers, and I hate to drag it back to the budget, but I will. Once more, NASA asked for far in excess of the funding the Congress has been willing to give the commercial spaceflight program. And I'm curious if history should repeat itself and the appropriation comes in lower. At this point, what would be the effect on things like the 2017 date to start flights and negotiating some more Soyuz seats from the Russians, which ostensibly not doing that was part of the reason to do commercial cruise? Can you comment about the timeline, the rationale behind the request and the possibility of a lower appropriation?
Sure. Well, that's the trade-off, isn't it? We either pay for investing in the U.S. capability or we send that money to Russia. And we believe that Congress is going to see this and be able to fund the request at the $821 million. We truly believe that Congress has been learning and accepting of the importance of this capability in this program. So $525 million for 13, we think will transition to a 14 full funding request. And if that doesn't happen, you can, and Charlie was very clear at the hearing the other day, very hard for us with the NASA, I would say, conservatism in our estimates to say we can get there in 2017 if we don't get our full request in 14. We know the private sector companies, I think, have all said they can provide the capability by 16. It's a question of just what you said. Are we going to fund a Russian program beyond? We've already had to buy 2 extra flights from Russia. That's money that could have spent in the United States if these programs had been funded. And we believe that Congress is really understanding this, and we're very, very hopeful that we can work with them this year to get this program fully funded.
Is that new, 2 flights? Sorry,
Yeah, they negotiated through now spring of 17. I think we worked through spring of 16 and we just added the 2.
Lori, just to follow up on this, can you talk a little bit about why hasn't Congress looked into this? They have cut the budget for commercial food for the last 2 or 3 years in a row, very significant. And I think you spoke yourself that you need to tell us, so go into that.
Change is hard, and we know that we had programs in place with developed agencies who intended to go to space stations. It's been very difficult for an established community and all that that entails to let go and to be able to say, wow, someone else can do this. It's hard for NASA, it's hard for our traditional industrial partners, and so being able to prove that in this way that we have, again, from 300 million to 400 million to 525, I think we're on a great trajectory. And so some of it has been just an educational mission that we have been on with Congress and the broader community to say, no, this isn't money that's going to leave NASA. This is going to allow us to do things that we were set up to do instead of just doing the operational mission that we've done for over 50 years. And but change is hard, and especially when it came to flying our precious astronauts. It's core to us. And while we were able to start cuts earlier, and I think there was a wide agreement on this program that this was the right path. Following on to trust in its help that we've already delivered cargo. It will help when we get a lot of these milestones done on the current agreements, SAAs that we have with crew, and I think we've really come an incredibly long way. Lots of people remind me it actually has come about very, very quickly. It was, less than 2 years ago, last shuttle flew, and we are already, a couple of flights already to the station and back, 3 partners developing crew systems, actual testing, and on track with SLS and PCB, I think, which has allowed folks to say, okay, NASA's not giving up. NASA's going back to be able to do deep space. And I think it was important to see that we weren't letting go. We were just going to refocus on the things that really only NASA can do. Yes?
I'm going to follow up on 2 different things. First, the ILC Dover inflatables that are currently at Langley, are there any plans for use of those now with your partnership with Bigelow in place? And on the budget matter, do you have any contingencies in place if so you're not hit the way you were this year and had to cut your planetary science budget?
Okay, on ILC Garver and Bigelow's planned use of them, I am not familiar with what their plans are, so you have to ask someone from Bigelow or maybe even Theo here. On our budget, NASA has contingency for contingency for contingency, and of course, we realize that the President's budget proposal is just that, it is a proposal. And as we work with Congress, we certainly hope that sequester will be over. The President's budget has been put together with an end to sequester, and so we are so hopeful that our $17.2 billion request will see through for 14. But we know, just like the rest of the government, this is a much bigger issue for the nation, and that's why we really need to focus on proving ourselves, on delivering what the taxpayer wants us to do, and on focusing those things that are uniquely NASA. We think our program speaks for itself. We think our successful planetary program is something that is still worth, again, the greatest investment of any of the combined nations on the planet, and they really return significant benefits. The fact that we've been able to outline the next couple of missions to Mars in 2020, with a launch this year, Maven, and then InSight, and then Mars 2020 is something that we're thrilled to be able to do with a budget that has given us, and just like with our commercial programs, believe it's something we'll work with Congress to make sure that they get what they need.
On that, could you kind of describe the thought process behind pulling out of ExoMars and then almost immediately after that announcing a new Mars rover?
Sure. So these programs are developed over long periods of time, and NASA had been talking with Europeans about being part of their missions. We really, as we talked about before, had not committed. We knew there were going to be problems with our partners being able to bring together their own resources in order to make both a 16 and an 18 mission. The missions were getting very complicated, and we had, within our own budget, to set priorities, and within the science budget, that had to be the jigsaw space telescope. We had a review that had an additional cost growth over $1 billion, and we know that has to come from somewhere in a time when budgets are not growing. So being able to keep on a path to Mars, utilizing what we had just successfully, so what happened in the middle of that was Curiosity success, being able to do for much less cost a Mars mission that we will be cooperating with Europeans on, and we of course continue to cooperate with them with a couple of both MOMA and Electra, the instruments for their missions. We believe we can get an even more robust Mars program and be able to assure that that path continues, because we have now a lot of confidence in our MSL and Curiosity capability, and we're working very well with Europeans. Charlie and I just met with our government this week, and it was great to get their progress and their missions and tell them about ours, and there are scientists working together, a lot of instrument sharing, and we feel really, really good about that.
Last question.
Right there.
Lori, I have a little bit of a disconnect between the asteroid mission and a piloted Mars flight. Some folks, I've heard the asteroid mission being popularized as a precursor to the Mars mission, but some folks just don't get the connection. It's kind of expound on that, and why the two are parts of the connected.
Sure. So as humans go out and explore deeper in space, we know we gain more experience about a number of things, right? Technologies that get you there, the capability of the human body to withstand deep space environment, and we know we only spent a few days each time on the moon, ultimately in a couple of weeks. We also know that we had to utilize SLS and Orion, elements of our exploration architecture, which we did not have when the president announced 3 years ago that an asteroid was our plan. Now that we have those, we had to find a plan that would utilize those architecture elements. Orion is capable of a 21-day mission without having the budget for additional extended duration paths, landers, etc. We need to use our technology budget to move an asteroid to a place where our human elements can go to investigate that asteroid while getting experience in deep space. Going beyond something we haven't done for 40 years is then how to get to Mars. We know through our robotic programs, we're also helping with precursors. The Curiosity mission had a radiation experiment on it for the human spaceflight program to help us understand that environment. Landing larger landers on Mars is helping us. Going back to the moon with a lander doesn't really help you with Mars. Fully said that can't go up. Atmosphere. So really, the practice to go to Mars, you need to go to Mars. And at this point, what we can learn from an asteroid mission is about the human physiology of deep space and utilizing these elements and testing them that are being developed to go to Mars. We know we'll need a lot more. We know we'll need extended paths. We can learn about shielding. We can learn about the technologies that will allow us to, when we go to Mars, go there safely and for a cost that this nation can afford. That's a path that gets you to Mars, and that's it. It's really on it. It starts today with a launch at 5 o'clock. So this is all part of our grand strategy, and we're thrilled. Thanks a lot.